You are welcome to the part 2 of Chemistry for Starters. And we're looking at matters and some other related information about matters. Like you have been taught in your elementary JS class, that matter is simply anything that has width and that occupies space. Matter is anything that has width and occupies space. And of course, it can exist in three forms: as solid, as liquid, and as gaseous state. And of course, it can be converted from one form to another. Now, I want to look at some other definitions that is very, very important. Now, we want to look at definition of a mixture and a compound. A mixture may be either homogeneous or heterogeneous. It is homogeneous when the two combining substances remain in the same phase after the combination. For instance, if there are two solids and before combination and after combination it remains solid, then it means they are in one phase. But if it's a liquid and a solid, and after the combination, the substance or the solute dissolves completely, in that solution, we call that an homogeneous solution as well. But if the solute settles at the bottom of the liquid, and we have both solid floating and both solvents floating and solid settle at the base, then we call that an heterogeneous solution. So what are we saying? That homogeneous solution is formed when a substance dissolves completely in a solvent and both exist in a single phase. But when a substance refuses to dissolve completely in a solvent and we have solid settling at the bottom of the base or water or the liquid, then we can call that an heterogeneous solution. Heterogeneous solution. Now let's look at other important thing. What are elements? An element is a pure substance that cannot be decomposed into any simpler pure substance. Can you repeat that after me? An element is a pure substance that cannot be decomposed into any simpler pure substance. Again, let's take it again together. An element is a pure substance that cannot be decomposed into any simpler pure substance. Now let's go for compound now. Compound is a pure substance that is composed of two or more elements in a fixed or definite proportion. A compound is a pure substance that is composed of two or more elements in a fixed proportion or definite proportion. Can you repeat that after me? A compound is a pure substance that is composed of two or more elements in a fixed or definite proportion. Can you take that again? A compound is a pure substance that is composed of two or more elements in a fixed or definite proportion. So we now go straight to other things. We've talked about matter. That can either be in heterogeneous form or homogeneous form. So we want to look further to some other definition. This will now take us to types of changes. There are different types of changes that occur in science. But I'll quickly summarize the two types of changes that we have. We have the physical change and the chemical change. Now, let's look at the physical change. A physical change has the following characteristics. It is easily reversible. Example is all the cases of vaporization of liquids is easily reversible. Another thing is in products, it does not produce new substance. No new substance that is produced by physical change or in physical change. Example is case of melting of solid to liquid. Number 3, there's no change in the mass of the substance involved. No change in mass. Example is when you magnetize an iron material from substance. Number 4, it does not involve any form of heat. Does not involve heat. So these are the features of a physical change. Now let's look at the features of a chemical change, which is just the reverse or the opposite of what we have just read out. Now, chemical change are the following characteristics. It is not easily reversible. It is not easily reversible. Example is all cases of burning. Number 2, new substances are produced. For instance, when iron rust, new substances are produced. So in chemical change, new substances are always produced. Number 3, there's change in the mass of the substance involved. There will always be change in the mass of the substance involved. And number 4, a considerable amount of heat change is involved as well. So a considerable amount of heat is involved. So that is all about the difference between the physical change and chemical change. Now let's make some little definitions about element, mixture, and compound. What's an element? An element is a substance which cannot be split into simpler units by ordinary chemical process. I repeat, an element is a substance which cannot be split into simpler units by ordinary chemical process. Can you take it now with me? Let's take it together. An element is a substance which cannot be split into simpler units by ordinary chemical process. Let's take it together again. An element is a substance which cannot be split into simpler units by ordinary chemical process. So elements constitute the building block of all other substances. Now, we'll look at a few examples of elements. We can have metals, we can have metalloids and non-metals. They can exist in those three forms. So metals are good conductors of electricity, while metalloids are semiconductors of electricity, while non-metals are non-conductors of electricity. Now let's look at the definition of mixture. A mixture is a substance formed when two or more constituents are physically joined together. So when two or more constituents are physically joined together. So the constituent of mixture can be element or compound. Now, can you take that definition with me? You repeat after me. A mixture is a substance formed when two or more constituents are physically joined together. That is, a mixture is formed when two or more substances are physically joined together. So let's now look at a few examples of mixture. Mixture, an example is air that contain oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, rare gases, dust, and moisture. So we have soil, which is made up of sand, clay, humus, water, air, and mineral salts. Urine, which contains urea, water, mineral salts, and many others like that. Now let's define what a compound is. A compound is a substance formed when two or more different elements are chemically joined together. Can you take that with me now? A compound is formed when two or more different elements are chemically joined together. So a compound is formed as a result of a chemical change, and it is a new substance that is formed. Now let's take a few examples of compounds now. For example, of compound and their components, elements. 1, we have water. Components, it contains hydrogen and oxygen. Sodium hydroxide contains sodium, oxygen, and hydrogen. Sodium chloride contains sodium and chlorine. Glucose contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Calcium hydroxide contains calcium, oxygen, and hydrogen. And many others like that. So that is the few examples of compound that we want to look at. Now, before we call it a day, now let's try to look at the difference between mixture and compound. Mixture and compound. Mixture and compound. Mixture, it may be homogeneous or heterogeneous. 2, the constituents are not chemically bound together and can be easily separated by physical method. 3, the constituents can be together in any ratio by mass. 4, the properties of mixture are the sum of those of its individual constituents. Number 5, mixture is not usually accompanied by external effects such as explosion, evolution of heat. Now, for chemical or compounds now. Compounds are always homogeneous. They're always homogeneous. The component elements are chemically bound together and cannot be separated by physical means. Number 3, the component elements are present in a fixed ratio by mass. Number 4, the properties of a chemical compound differ entirely from those of its component elements. And number 5, usually accompanied by one or more of these effects. So these are the few things we want to look at in this second part of chemistry for starters. So please, as you have been taught, let's go back and make more research and read more about all what you have discussed in this particular video, and success will be yours. Thank you and be blessed.